Welcome into the Women's Football Alliance on Southfield Cable 15. Jacksonville and Detroit set to square off, vying for a conference championship at Harrison High School. Our keys to the game to kick off the broadcast for Jacksonville. Everything on your screen right now may look fairly fundamental. However, it will all be of vast importance against this heavily favored Detroit Dark Angels team. And now stepping into our players to watch segment. On the Jacksonville side of things, their quarterback, Amberlyn Twig, number 11 in white, perhaps the biggest game of her young career. One of her wideouts, Erica Small, will be one to watch on the perimeter throughout the course of the evening for Jacksonville. She'll have her hands full with this core of Dark Angels defensive backs that is led by Clarissa Tulis, one of the best in the business when it comes to checking wideouts. She'll certainly be one to keep an eye on. And then her QB, Michaela Hilton, first year as quarterback for the Dark Angels. All of it coming up next on Southfield Cable 15.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
For the Jacksonville Dixie Blues.
Harrison High School is the location for this conference championship game, the first home conference championship for the Detroit Dark Angels. Erica Small, who we profiled in the open, will kick things off to Clarissa Tulis, who is quickly out across midfield. Tulis breaks a tackle at the 40, stiff arms another at the 35, and barrels her way down to the 26-yard line of Jacksonville to open up the evening with quite the bang. Talked about her electricity in the open. Didn't take long for her to display it on the opening kickoff return that goes 43 yards into Jacksonville territory. Well, Dark Angels head coach Keith Thomas, in our conversation earlier this week, felt that his team understood the magnitude of this moment. Mentioned it's their first home conference championship game. An opportunity on the line to reach the championship game, which would be down in Ohio at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. First things first, though, is taking care of business right here and right now against this Jacksonville team that has very limited numbers on both sides of the ball today. Michaela Hilton, the QB, again, number 87 in red, under center, and beginning in advantageous field position at the Jacksonville 26-yard line. And has the ball currently on what is a live play. The Jacksonville defense was entirely fooled, and Hilton will scamper her way into the end zone for an easy 26-yard run. Add 6 points on the board just 24 seconds in. A trick play to kick things off after the 43-yard return. I don't think a soul on the Jacksonville defense knew that was a live play, and it was because of the offensive line for Detroit. As the extra point attempt is about to get underway, not a single member of the offensive line was down in a three-point stance. Consequently, not a single member of the Jacksonville defensive line got in their athletic position. We'll have a replay coming up of it in just a sec as the extra point is tacked on there by Sarah Monte. And this has been a wild start to our game right here. A play that, I mean, you never see that. The offensive line opted not to get into a stance. You can tell there were multiple Jacksonville players who were just looking towards the sideline as if the play call was still coming in. Nonetheless, it's 7-0 Detroit. Welcome back to Southfield Cable 15. A very quick, to say the least, 7-0 lead for Detroit on the home field. Just 24 seconds in. Erica Small returning here from inside of her own 10 on the Jacksonville side of things. Twirled down at the 20-yard line by Deanna Lenaway. That'll now bring out the Jacksonville offense for the first time. A bit shell-shocked, and understandably so, after that opening kickoff return of 43 yards, and that being backed up by a 26-yard designed trick play on the quarterback run for Michaela Hilton. And I mentioned how amped up Detroit Dark Angels head coach Keith Thomas was for this one, and he fools just about everyone at Harrison High School on the opening possession there. Now under censor for the Dixie Blues, Amberlyn Twigg, who we profiled in our open. See the high press coverage from the Dark Angels, and they may have just sparked what should be a false start here on the opening offensive play for the Dixie Blues. It is indeed a play that'll set them back 5 yards right off the bat there.
Moves the ball back to the Dixie Blues 16. First and 15.
There's a slight adjustment from the Dark Angels defense right before the snap, and it caught a couple of the offensive linemen for Jacksonville off guard. So now 1st and 15, 36 seconds in, and we've already had a couple of fireworks. Twigg rolling, throwing. Her first throw of the game is her first completion of the game, as she finds Sutton, one of her top receivers at the top of your screen there, for a gain of about 8 to get a good chunk of that yardage back that was lost initially. Alex Sutton and Amberlyn Twigg have wonderful chemistry with one another. Jacksonville felt they had a pretty good week of practice. Obviously, on top of that week of practice, we mentioned they're thin in numbers, just about 16 or 17 players on hand for today's conference championship. So naturally, practically everyone is playing both sides of the ball today. Now 2nd and 6 for Twigg, so they called it a gain of 9. Twigg steps up, however, she's going to be brought down promptly. It's a menacing defensive line for this Detroit Dark Angels team.
But it's a sack by Detroit Dark Angels.
Getting in the mix there and twirling down the QB is Mariah Carson, one of several players up front that Keith Thomas loves. And we'll delve into that throughout the course of the broadcast, but describe both his linemen and his linebackers as gritty and blue-collar type players who really love to get in the mix and work hard no matter what the stat sheet might show. It's a real team-oriented effort on both sides of the ball.
10.
Now brings up our first 3rd and long situation of the game, a 3rd and 10. For Twigg and this Jacksonville offense that'll spread out 4 receivers. Twigg is 1 for 1 in the air today. She won't get a chance to throw here as she just goes tumbling backwards. I don't believe she was touched. May have just been the initial push from the Dark Angels defense, which was led by Octavia Griswold, that kind of... Yeah, it was the initial push from Griswold that just threw back the offensive line. In particular, there on the Jacksonville side of things, LaPortia Robinson was knocked right back, and it definitely led to Amberlyn Twigg being rattled. So they won't say they lost any yardage, but this will be an obvious punting situation. Back at their own 19. Erica Small, who is a receiver, defensive back, and also takes the punting duties as well for this Jacksonville team, will have the honors. Danielle Kearse, one of the better athletes on the Detroit Dark Angels team, won't have an opportunity to return here. However, her offense was set up at the 37 of Jacksonville when we come back on Southfield Cable 15.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Second consecutive possession for the Dark Angels offense, starting inside of the opponent's 40 and off quickly once again. A gaping hole opens up for Tulis, who plays both sides of the ball, and right away she rips off about 15-16 yards on the opening run of this second drive for Detroit. First play of the game was designed QB scamper for 26 yards. All they needed was one play to take it to the end zone, which is why we are currently at 7-0 in favor of Detroit. So already 41 yards on the ground for the Dark Angels. Again, we mentioned we had an opportunity to chat with the head coach, Keith Thomas, earlier this week. Here is that sound.
They're tough. And not tough because they're so big and strong and powerful. You're looking at a roster that's about 20 players. And when you look at them on film, I typically count about 15 players, 11 in the game, 4 or 5 players on the sideline. Yes, but with that, they're 5-2. And when you watch them play, they have a few athletes on that team that can run, that can hit. And so you really can't judge that book by its cover. I mean, you would usually look like, less than 20, no problem. They're 5-2 in the conference championship. They're traveling up here from Jacksonville, Florida. They're leaving a state of Florida that's in the midst of the remnants of a hurricane and tropical storm, and they're up here ready to play football. So I'm not going to discount them. They are a little unconventional with some of their schemes and how they run plays, but that makes it actually harder for us. When you got a traditional team lined up in a particular offense or spread or wing T, whatever, or going on a 4-3 or 3-4 in their defense, you can prepare. They're kind of all over the place. And albeit you look at it at times, you're confused, they're 5-2 in a conference championship. So I'm preparing for them as if they're the best team we see this season.
Plenty of respect from Keith Thomas for his opponent today, the Dixie Blues of Jacksonville, who he noted traveled up earlier this week from Florida. And that's the mentality that the Dark Angels really try to carry into each and every game, is a respect and a high respect for each opponent. And this time on the ground, it's Aaron Payton with her first run of the game and into the red zone for the first time. Goes this Detroit Dark Angels offense. Again, they scored from just outside of the red zone on their opening possession. It was a 43-yard kickoff return from Clarissa Tulis, who we saw in the previous play. She's lined up as a running back once again here on 2nd and 2, and they go right to her. Gets a block up front from Mariah Carson and takes it into the end zone. Clarissa Tulis waltzes her way home. Keith Thomas said earlier this week he has no problem calling her perhaps one of, if not the best football player he has ever coached from an all-around standpoint. Not huge in stature, but certainly huge in heart. And it's quickly 13-0 in favor of Detroit with 10:13 to go in the opening quarter. Sarah Monte once again on for the extra point. And once again converts. 14-0 in favor of the Dark Angels. Still very early stages of what's been an electric opening quarter of play.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
Welcome back to Harrison High School, the location of what is a home conference championship game for the Dark Angels, the first home conference championship game in team history. Erica Small returning this out to the 30. Jacksonville will have pretty decent field position here as they'll set up at their own 36-yard line. First possession started at their own 20. So already over 50 yards on the ground for this Detroit Dark Angels team. Both sides are fairly run heavy, but when you speak to Keith Thomas about the mentality offensively for the Dark Angels, he will specifically tell you it is a hard-nosed running game, and we also bank on a gritty defense that you get a look at it right now. It's a kind of a hybrid look defensively. He calls it a 4-3-5 look, where he's not afraid to drop his linebackers into coverage and have them, face receivers in a Jacksonville offensive set that, as we saw in their opening possession, oftentimes will feature 4, maybe 5 receivers spreading out. Not a particular pass-heavy team, but they are more often than not giving you looks of 3, 4, maybe 5 receivers. We get a timeout called by the Dark Angels. We mentioned the defense of the Dark Angels. Here's their head coach, Keith Thomas, speaking on the offense.
And this year's offense, very unique. Well, why? I lost my offensive coordinator. I lost, about 3,000 yards worth of rushing from my 2019 team. I lost all my quarterbacks. And this year, I have a new OC, new quarterbacks, new running backs, and we're in a conference championship. So our offense has struggled, has fought, has come together, has matured as a unit, has never quit. That's been the best part. You're going to go through struggles when you have that much turnover and new people on the team. But when you see that group of players and you see that coach leading them, not quitting, there's nothing more I can say about that. They're a great group, great offensive group.
The Dark Angels offensive backfield in particular had a couple of very big hits in the offseason that we'll touch on throughout the course of the broadcast. Twig on the move, throwing, flag goes flying. Tula should be called here for defensive pass interference. It was pretty evident that the contact was made while the ball was still in the air. Was looking for Sutton there. Twig does well to keep plays alive. Isn't a player who wants to get out of the pocket more often than she likes to stay comfortable, but she can keep a play alive, which is very important in today's brand of football. She's already had one completion with Sutton, was looking for her second there. That'll be an automatic first down and a gain of 15 yards for this Dixie Blues offense. And once again, pretty decent field position here. We've already seen Detroit start at the Jacksonville 26 and then the Jacksonville 35, converted quickly on both opportunities via the running game. Here's that look again, though. Once again, it's 3 receivers at the bottom, 1 at the top, so 4 receivers total. Twig will try to keep it alive. Another flag goes flying for a second consecutive play as Twig is hit hard and brought down by Tulis. It appears as though this penalty might be on the Dixie Blues. Was in the holding zone.
For Jacksonville, Twig was the ball carrier. Illegal motion flag against the Dixie Blues was declined.
An illegal motion penalty called on the Dixie Blues, although it's declined, so that brings up 2nd and 9.
Huh?
Dixie Blues 44.
3.4.
Still at the 44-yard line. However, it's now 1st and 11, technically after the penalty was declined. Another 4-receiver set for this Dixie Blues team that's 5-2 heading into the conference championship. Twig tries to avoid the sack and does. But the disruption in the backfield from Deanna Lenaway made all the difference there. Lenaway coming from that edge spot. Again, it's a defensive line and a core of linebackers that head coach Keith Taylor really loves for this Detroit Dark Angels team, beg your pardon. Led up front by Octavia Griswold and Deanna Jones, number 78 and number 74. Kind of in the two inside spots there with the front four, and he called those two in our conversation earlier this week a blessing from God. So they really, more often than not, are getting pressure in the backfield on opposing quarterbacks. Twig under duress once again and brought down once again. It was Griswold leading the way. The ball came out towards the ends of that sequence there, and they'll say it was recovered by Detroit. So right as we touched on Griswold and Jones, it is Griswold who forced the fumble. In the pile of humanity, Deion Jones recovers. So the duo of Griswold and Jones comes up big in the early stages of this quarter and forces the first turnover of the evening. That'll bring the offense right back out for Detroit. An offense that is 2 for 2 so far. Up the middle goes Aaron Payton, eludes a tackler, and then battles her way inside of the red zone. So for the second time today, Detroit will gain access to the red zone. A late flag comes in. Early indications are pointing towards what might be a face mask. It is a face mask, but is it an offensive face mask? It is the question mark. There's a hard finish to this run, and it is an offensive face mask. That was Erica Small who tried to make the tackle. So an unfortunate ending to what would have been a big run. What would have been a big run after a gaping hole opened up. Offensive line has been excellent so far for Detroit, and that was another points of emphasis from Keith Thomas in our conversation earlier this week. He said our offensive line has been good all season long, but for both sides today, self-inflicted mistakes have to be at the top of the list of what not to do. Here's Aaron Payton trying to make up for it. She certainly atones for the mistake there. A gain of 25 will put Detroit down to what appears to be the 3-yard line. So they quickly make up for it. Didn't take much time there. On the following play, already nearly 70 yards. And I should say now over 70 yards on the ground for this run-heavy Detroit Dark Angels offense. 7.5 to play and a chance to pad the lead. They will do exactly that as the touchdown sign goes up. Second rushing touchdown for Michaela Hilton on the day out of that QB position. Her first year as the starting quarterback for the Detroit Dark Angels, and she's making her imprint felt very early on in the first conference championship game for Detroit at home. Brings Sarah Monse back out for the third time today. Already a 3-possession advantage for the Dark Angels. And Monse hoping to go 3 for 3 and extra points. She'll do just that. 7:18 to play in quarter number 1. Dark Angels are kicking it off with a bang on the home field. 3 possessions, 3 rushing touchdowns on Cable 15.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks. Visit us at stoptextstopwrecks.org.
Well, there was that offensive face mask penalty. Aaron Payton quickly made up for it, and then Michaela Hilton put the finishing touches on with another touchdown scamper. Small goes barreling into, that time, Jessica Brown on the return for Jacksonville. An offense that fumbled on their second possession of the game. Dark Angels capitalized quickly. We mentioned the self-inflicted mistakes being just something that Jacksonville can't do today, to put it frankly and simply. They're just about inside of Dark Angel territory, too, when that mistake took place. But the line of scrimmage has been more than in favor of the Dark Angels to kick off this game. In that previous possession, it was Octavia Griswold forcing the fumble. Then her partner in crime, Deion Jones, recovered. And those two have been an interesting story throughout the course of the season for the Dark Angels. Here's a high snap. The Twig has to vacuum in, tries to loft it underneath. Incomplete. Had intentions there for Javona Carter, but couldn't quite connect with her. Once again, players in the backfield, Griswold and Jones, both got their pretty big paws up in the air. Griswold's an interesting story in the sense that she's only practiced a couple of times with this Dark Angel team this year, because off the field, she's a correctional officer, which is a pretty time-consuming gig. So on the field, though, they really haven't needed her to practice that often, as that is tipped and nearly intercepted. Line drive throw over the middle, intentions for Sutton. Griswold, though, has 20 years of experience playing women's tackle football, which is why, when I say she's only practiced a couple of times this year, you speak to head coach Keith Thomas about that, and he said, yeah, we're totally fine with that because her experience certainly makes up for it. Then Deion Jones, her partner in crime, number 78, similar story, Columbus, Ohio native, who lives in Columbus, and really, more often than not, again, because of work, can't make it up to Detroit for practices, but plenty of experience under her belt. She actually played for the Women's Football Alliance team that was in Columbus the past several years, but folded due to financial issues. As we get an injury here, it's Geneva Carter once again hobbling off the field there after that last sequence. So we'll monitor that. She's one of the starters for Jacksonville. But both Jones and Griswold, despite their lack of practice time, make an immense impact on opposing quarterbacks. They do the same here. Twig squeaks free, but not for long, as she's ultimately brought down by Curse on the edge there. 6.5 to play now in this opening quarter as the clock continues to roll. Brings up 4th down and what'll be 15.
For the Dark Angels. Brings up 4th down. Ball is on the
second obvious punting situation for Jacksonville. 3 possessions so far. First ended on a punt, second ended on a fumble. And now this third will bring out Erica Small once again. She'll stay on the field because she's a receiver, a defensive back, and a punter. And what would have been a punt may have been blocked had she decided to let it go, which is why she has to keep it. Gets spiraled down in the backfield, and for the 4th time today, Detroit will set up inside of the Jacksonville 40. Second time they've set up inside of the 30. And once again, to no surprise, it was Octavia Griswold just out-muscling the offensive line, this time in a special teams scenario for the Jacksonville Dixie Blues. .540 to play in this opening quarter, 21-0, and the Detroit offense in prime position to add on to their 21-0 advantage. A throw over the middle to a wide open receiver is dropped in the end zone. However, there are multiple flags out on the play. That was Jessica McKenzie who just leaked free past the Dixie Blues secondary, undetected. But we'll see what these flags are first. It appears to be on Jacksonville.
I think this is too many women on the field. All you gotta do is look across the field. Am I right?
The indications right now are too many women on the field.
I'm not wrong.
So that is what the call will be. Too many women on the field, which is an automatic first down here for Detroit, and it'll advance them up to the 10.
Oh, it's a false start.
Now another flag goes down. We may have a false start on Detroit, which will set them back another 5. This is on Sarah Kirkos. Yeah, you see she just got a little too antsy there. Lines up as a tight end, is also listed as a quarterback. Here is Aaron Payton on a keeper. Payton inside the 10. Payton to the end zone. Flags go flying once more. We'll see whether or not this is on Detroit. It is, so don't add those 6 points on just yet. Back-to-back offensive penalties as this game gets a little sloppy on both sides. A lot of running the football. Looks like it was very late. Kind of at the bottom of your screen there. Danielle Curse, the guilty party. Pretty obvious with the official right there as she was blocking Brittany Sheeran, who's been involved in some special teams action so far for Jacksonville. If she hadn't committed that, I believe Peyton still would have scored. This time Hilton goes to the air and finds a receiver, but was it dropped? It was. The process of the catch was not complete. We just mentioned Brittany Sheeran. Credit her for not giving up on the play, because initially the intended receiver, Curse, leaked out pretty undetected into the secondary. There was some blown coverage on the back end. However, Sheeran recovered very nicely. And it wasn't as if she perfectly timed it up. It was just a hit that jarred the ball loose. So if you talk to Danielle Curse, who's known mostly for her defensive abilities, she'd probably tell you, I should have hung on to that football. Here is Clarissa Tulis, who's already scored once on the ground, hits the edge, looking for the edge, finds it, and 6 more. 27-0 in favor of Detroit. And Clarissa Tulis finds her second rushing touchdown of the evening. Shade under 5 to go. And the Dark Angels are padding what has been a dominating performance in this first quarter. Siramonte, the extra point attempt is up. Another flag goes flying. Been a lot of laundry on the field over the past several minutes here. This might be on Jacksonville. It is. Penalty declines. 28-0 in favor of the Dark Angels on their home field. 4 possessions, 4 touchdowns. We'll step aside on Southfield Cable 15.
Our family is no less than any other family.
My heart doesn't see race.
Love is love.
Beautiful evening in Southeast Michigan. It's been a beautiful start to the evening for the Detroit Dark Angels, who are trying to advance to the championship game down in Ohio. Sutton on the return for Jacksonville. She is brought down hard, just shy of the 45 at the 44-yard line. So second consecutive possession with pretty decent field position for Jacksonville.
Alex Sutton and number 38, Tullis on the takedown.
Clarissa Tullis made the tackle there. A player who Keith Thomas described as out of this world. I mean, flat out told us, highlight her as much as you possibly can, because in his opinion, she's one of the best, if not the best, all-around football players that he has ever coached throughout the course of his years. Picked up her second rushing touchdown on that previous offensive possession for Detroit. Right back out for special teams, makes a tackle. Now right back out into her high safety position. As you get a look at the defensive players there for Detroit. On the flip side, Amberlyn Twigg, who has done well to extend plays, but the problem is she's been forced to extend plays on practically every play here for Jacksonville. She drops back once again and under pressure once again. Has to let it go. Just throws it away. Was hit by Marika C., who breached the backfield along with Deion Jones. The offensive line for Jacksonville has their hands full against this Detroit Dark Angels defensive line that rushed 5 there.
Intentional grounding is the call against Jacksonville.
We'll get an intentional grounding call, which will set Jacksonville back even further.
Moves the ball back to the Jacksonville 39-yard line.
That's a loss of 5, so it brings up 2nd and 15. Shade over 4 minutes to play in the opening quarter. Twigg was hoping to go over the middle that time for Erica Small. Danielle Curse there defensively to time it up well. Curse, another outstanding athlete, began with this team in 2010 and has been with the group ever since. One of the longest tenured players on the roster, is a very hard, fundamental tackler, and is just there each and every time you try to target her. Wonderful footwork. We mentioned Clarissa Tullis being called perhaps one of the better, if not the best, all-around football players on this Dark Angels team. For Curse, Keith Taylor will tell you she's the best defensive back he's ever seen. As once again, Twigg is under pressure. And Keith Thomas also has told me that he likes to show his high school players, his high school male players, film of both Curse and Tullis, because they're just so fundamentally sound. And from a tackling standpoint, they tackle hard and they tackle crisp and they wrap up. So rarely ever are opposing receivers escaping their grasp. As that time, I don't know how, if you're Twigg, you can even see over the arms of Griswold and Jones, who combine there. Brings up a second consecutive obvious punting situation. see what they opt to do here. The punt does get off that time. Remember, the last time Erica Small tried to punt, as that is bobbled on the reception, and it'll be Jacksonville football. Curse couldn't quite hold on to it. A rare mistake there. A muffed punt will give possession back to Jacksonville, which flips the script around from the last time Jacksonville tried to punt. It was Erica Small on that last punt who couldn't get it off because of the pressure from Octavia Griswold. She had to just succumb to being hit in the backfield and inside of her own 15. This time, the pressure may be running at Danielle Curse, forces a muffed punt, and look who it is there to recover. It's Erica Small. So maybe a smile cracking on her face, and deservedly so, with 2:50 to play in this opening quarter for Jacksonville. A team that for the first time today will set up inside of Detroit Dark Angel territory. Two and a half to play. Twig hands it off. And it's Brittany Sheeran who is quickly wrapped up after a gain of a few yards. With a little over 2 minutes to play in this opening quarter.
Jacksonville running play.
Detroit playing on their home field today in front of the home fans. Jacksonville traveled up from Florida earlier this week.
The Dark Angels, 45.
It's a Jacksonville team that is 5-2, limited numbers on the field today, in their 19th season as a team, 9-time division champions. So there's some history coming up from Florida. 3-time world champs, over 50 All-Americans over the years. Their saying is coming together for greatness. And it'll certainly have to be an effort of coming together as a team if they have a shot of clawing their way back from what is a large 28-point hurdle right now. 80 seconds to play in the opening quarter. Twig will go to the air once again. Curse was in her face quickly, found a receiver, however incomplete. Toulis there to break up the pass that was intended for Alex Sutton.
And the Dark Angels, 45.
Brings up 2nd and long from the Dark Angel 35. Beg your pardon, now 3rd and 13, so 3 consecutive possessions with 3rd and long for Jacksonville. 1:09 to play in the opening quarter. Twig drops back, pressure once again. That's been the consistent theme. Dangerously lofted up into the air. Ball settles down around the 40 with 60 seconds to play in quarter 1.
Brings up 4th down for Jacksonville.
If you're just tuning in, this game started off with a bang. 43-yard kickoff return from Clarissa Toulis of Detroit. That was followed up by a 26-yard designed trick run from the QB Michaela Hilton of 26 yards. It was quickly 7-0. That's been backed up by 3 consecutive rushing touchdowns. Already over 80 yards on the ground for this Dark Angels offense. Now 4th and 13, and the 4th punt of the day for a Jacksonville offense that's been stymied for the most part. Here is Danielle Curse. She is wrapped up at about the 34-yard line of Detroit, and the offense led by Michaela Hilton will come back out onto the field with just under a minute to go in this opening quarter.
Tackle by Jacksonville, number 10, Alexis Lopez.
Alexis Lopez was there to make the tackle. She plays offense, defense, and special teams for this Jacksonville crew.
Legal formation penalty against Jacksonville.
There was a flag that went down on the play. They're going to say it was an illegal formation penalty. Believe that was declined, so still Detroit lines up at the 34. This has been the story all day long. Holes opening up for the running game. It's a chunk of 11.
Number 3,
Fiona Meyer-Terrell on the ground that time. And already the 6th time today that Detroit has had a run of 10 yards or more. Twig will load up and loft it down the seam. Out of the reach that time of Aaron Payton, who's been involved in both the running game and the passing game today. This is a Detroit Dark Angels team coming off an opening round win in the playoffs over Baltimore. That was a different story than today. They have already doubled the amount of points they scored against Baltimore. It was a 12-0 win. 28 points in this opening quarter alone, to a little more than double, again, the amount of points they scored a couple of weeks ago against Baltimore. Have the luxury of their home field this time around. Keith Thomas, you could feel the confidence radiating off of him, the Detroit Dark Angels head coach, in our conversation earlier this week, and the privilege of playing this game at home. Twig on another designed run, and she will barrel her way over a couple of tacklers. It is Hilton making her way to the 41 on a hard-fought run, which will wrap up the opening quarter of play. Michaela Hilton started things off with a bang, and she ends things with a bang. 28-0 after one quarter of play in Farmington Hills, Michigan. 4 possessions so far completed for this Dark Angels offense. 4 rushing touchdowns are the result. We'll step aside on cable 15.
Food. We think about it all the time, but for many Americans, it's a scary thought. During this crisis, 1 in 12 seniors and 1 in 7 children don't have access to nutritious food. We can all help. Get involved at feedingamerica.org.
Second quarter of action getting rolling from Harrison High School. A 28-0 advantage for the Detroit Dark Angels, who pick up right where they left off on the ground. It's Clarissa Toulis taking the handoff for a relatively short gain in comparison to that opening quarter of play, brought down by Alex Sutton. There were over 80 yards of offense registered on the ground alone for this Detroit Dark Angels team in that 28-0 opening quarter. That was kicked off by way of a Michaela Hilton 26-yard rushing touchdown. This time, Hilton will hand it off to Sarah Kirkos, who is spiraled down inside of the 30. Now all 5 Detroit Dark Angel possessions have made it inside of the 30-yard line.
Meyer-Terrell on the carry for the Dark Angels. Carries enough for a Dark Angels first down.
3 receivers set this time. Hilton will opt to go to the air down the seam. Has an open receiver. It's Sarah Kirkos once again. Quarterback to former quarterback. A 28-yard connection, and the Detroit Dark Angels take a 34-0 lead just a couple of minutes into the second quarter. Michaela Hilton registers her first touchdown pass of the game after being a part of 2 rushing touchdowns in that opening quarter. Saramonte on to attempt the extra point. She's 4 for 4 in that category today. And makes it 5 for 5. The Dark Angels pick up right where they left off, however, doing it in a bit of a different way this time around. The first touchdown pass of the game after dominating on the ground in the opening 15 minutes. We'll see if their defense can also pick up where they left off. More coming up on Cable 15.
Natural disasters are a fact of life in the U.S. And between activities and school, chances are you won't be with your kids when they happen. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids can help your children feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Sign your child up today.
Now a 5-possession advantage for the Dark Angels. Bit of a squib-like kick will settle down at the 28. Taking it there is Brittany Sheeran, who's been a part of the game on both sides of the ball today for Jacksonville. She is wrestled down inside of her own 30.
For the Dixie Blues.
Dixie Blues team that, in their only possession that really threatened in the first quarter of play, fumbled, and the Dark Angels promptly capitalized. That was a play that got to about the 49 of Detroit. There was also the punt that didn't get off back inside of their own 20, thanks in part to this menacing Detroit Dark Angels defensive line that has really made their impact felt throughout the stages of this opening half. Jacksonville knew they would have to game plan for that. Their QB, Amberlyn Twigg, has been on the move quite a bit, and not because she wants to be, but because of the defensive line pressure that has constantly been in the Jacksonville backfield so far today. They opt to go with a pretty bunched up set this time. The protection was better than it has been throughout the opening half. However, the pass was into double coverage. There may be a pass interference call coming up here. There was a PI call on Detroit in the first quarter, and that appears to be the case this time around. Twigg lofted it up into double coverage. Had intentions there for Erica Small. Looks like the pass interference call will go against Aaron Payton. Rare mistake from a 60-year veteran. One of the leaders of the Dark Angels defense and a co-captain as well. Another player who's on both sides of the ball has been lining up as a running back for the vast majority of the season as well. Twigg once again looking to go to the air. Different setup this time for more blocking. Goes underneath. Brittany Sheeran nearly spinned off a tackle, but they'll still be lining up behind the sticks, which should be 2nd and 11 coming up here, as Twigg had to drop back very far to avoid a sack. And she probably dropped back and scrambled maybe 10-15 yards before finding the receiver underneath. So once again, a second and long situation. Have not really been able to set up any sort of third and manageables because it's always been 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. Now 2nd and 11 here. With under 13 to play in the opening half. Twig steps up, has to just shovel it free, but they'll say she was down and sacked for the 4th time in just a quarter and a little bit of change here. Twig having conversations with her offensive lineman.
To number 44. Number 25.
Jessica Brown getting in the backfield from her linebacker spot there. There's a look at Jessica on your screen. Her head coach told me, her head coach Keith Thomas told me that the best thing about Jessica is she could have probably been a boxer on the Olympic team. She does box in her free time and not any sort of just everyday amateur type of boxing. He described it as legitimate boxing, and she brings that kind of tough mentality to the field of play, and they give her free license to roam in that linebacker position, whether it's back in coverage or if it's reaching the backfield. That time picks up her first sack of the game and forces 3rd and 16. Jacksonville from their own 35. A pass dangerously tipped off the hands of the intended target that time, LaPasha Robinson. Deanna Lenaway in on the coverage.
Incomplete. Brings up 4th and 16.
So another obvious punting situation here on 4th and 16 for Jacksonville. It'll bring out Erica Small. Her 5th punt of the day gets it off as a high arcing boot into the hands of Danielle Kirsch, who's already muffed 1 punt today. Has to pick that one up. Maybe she can show off her athleticism still, though. Gets inside the 50, make it to 40, and barely inside of the 30 of Jacksonville. So recovers after the initial drop. Some good blocking downfield. And yet again, ideal field position for Michaela Hilton and this Detroit Dark Angels offense. I mentioned their head coach, Keith Thomas. He'll discuss the defense up next on Cable 15.
Defense, that's our backbone. Call it defense. They like to call themselves the dark side. I'll leave some of those reasons out, but no, they're tough. That's Detroit football. Whether it was the Demolition, whether it's anybody else, you're not going to come in here and beat up on us defensively. We're going to kind of punch you in the face. Within the confines of the rule of the game. We're tough up front. I got some great D tackles. I have experienced linebackers. I got a linebacker who's playing for me like the last 7 years. Secondary is on point. We had, oh my God, last game, first round playoffs, I lost count 4 or 5 picks out of my free safeties and corners. Just a tremendous group. I have another young lady who's been playing for my team since 2011. She's an athlete, kick returner, special player. So the defense is the backbone of this team.
Talked about the boxing mentality of Jessica Brown. And I think your head coach, Keith Thomas, certainly echoed that sentiment there. We'll punch you in the face in the legal confines of the game of football. Here they go on the ground. They have been providing the punch up front. The line of scrimmage battle and the end of this run, tough, just like Keith Thomas will describe his team. And they have really pushed back the smaller defensive line of Jacksonville throughout the course of this opening half of play. We see it once again there. It was Fiona Meyer-Terrell, one of multiple players in the backfield who have lined up and taken balls out of the hands of Michaela Hilton, the QB. Fiona Meyer-Terrell is an interesting story, an engineer off the field, one of the rookie players. Keith Thomas really speaks volumes about her. Hilton and her team up 35-0. The last touchdown came through the air. They go back to the ground, though, and back to Fiona Meyer-Terrell, who picks up another first down. muscling her way to about the 33-yard line of the Dixie Blues.
On the kill. Once again for the Dark Angels.
Saw in the previous shot there a We Love Deanna sign, Deanna Lenaway's family in the stands today as you get another look at the run. Meyer Terrell was brought down by Erica Small, but just wonderful to see all the families in attendance after the 12-0 win against Baltimore. Home field this time around in the conference championship, the first home conference championship for the Detroit Dark Angels. And at this rate, we could potentially have a running clock in the second half. Have scored on each of their 5 drives so far offensively in this game. The last touchdown came through the air. First 4 came on the ground. Another fresh set of downs. They go to the pitch, a quick flag, potentially in the holding zone. It's Aaron Payton on the move and brought down by Alex Sutton at the 19. A false start will bring that yardage back and negate what would have been about a 10-yard gain. I'll say an illegal procedure is actually the official call.
Legal formation penalty against the Dark Angels.
So that initial motion on your screen may have prompted that call. It's 5 yards back. So 1st and 15 now. If there's one spot of improvement that you could look for out of what has, for the most part, been a spotless opening half, it's maybe the cleanness of it overall. There were multiple penalties against the Dark Angels in the opening quarter that maybe could have made it a little more pretty. However, each time they were penalized, found a way to atone for those mistakes. Hilton hands off to Payton once again. Maybe a similar result. Barrels her way inside of the 30 and down to the 27 before being brought down by Brittany Sheeran. Multiple runs of 20-plus yards in that opening half of the Dark Angels. There was the 26-yarder that kicked things off on the very first play of the game. 24 seconds in, the scoring started in the opening quarter. That first touchdown through the air in this second quarter of play came just a minute and a bit of change into this second quarter of action. But this has been the territory that the offense has resided in for the most part today. Inside of the 30 once again. Payton hit hard. I will say, you look at this current drive, it's been one of the lengthier possessions of the game so far. The longest, as it nears 4 minutes for this Dark Angels offense. Up 35-0 and eating up a bit of clock here. Rarely have they faced third down situations. That'll be the case coming up after a beautiful form tackle in the backfield from Haley Hunsucker. 3rd and short, however, though. It'll be 3rd and 3, but not a situation that we've been used to seeing this Dark Angels team in throughout the opening quarter. Hilton out of an I formation this time. The handoff to Clarissa Tulish, trying to power her way to a first down, and does just that. Mentioned she plays both sides of the football. Keith Thomas described her as a Ray Lewis all over the field. And when he says all over the field, he really means all over the field, because she goes both ways, offense and defense. And a player who just epitomizes leadership, holding herself to such a high standard. Thomas said that she's the kind of student in the classroom who maybe isn't satisfied with the A-, wants the A because everything needs to be perfect. And so far, I mentioned you scratch out the penalties in that opening quarter, everything has been just about perfect. Now the Dark Angels are perfect on third down. They go with a designed QB run here. That offensive line, once again, just a push up front, nothing too special. As you saw, Hilton there was just kind of, it looked like she was nearly walking ahead, just behind your blockers, and that's been the MO today. Stay behind your blockers and pick up yardage.
6-yard gain on the carry for the
It's a 6-yard gain to be exact, which will bring up 2nd and 4. Talked about the perfection that this team strives for. KT, as he's known around these parts, talked about the energy level in our latest chat with him.
The national championship game. It is at the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame down in Canton, Ohio, at that really spectacular stadium. And I've shown that video to the team, and I said, that's 3 hours away. In 2019, we were in Colorado, and a lot of people couldn't take their family. But people going, wait, I can have my family drive 3 hours east to Canton, Ohio, and watch me play for a national championship? Yes. I got a player over there on the sideline now with her baby in the crib. I got another player who'll show up with her kids. So the energy of knowing I can play for a national championship in front of my family just 3 hours down the road, the energy is pretty high. It's pretty high.
Mentioned all the families in the stands today. It's been wonderful to watch. Hoping that they'll be going down to Canton for a national championship in a couple of weeks. Trying to go through the air for a second consecutive passing touchdown there. Hilton had intentions for Marcy Van Hartesveld, but couldn't quite find her in the back of the end zone. The Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio is typically where the NFL preseason gets underway with the Hall of Fame game in August. It'll be quite the stage for the Women's Football Alliance National Championship in a couple of weeks. Right now, it looks like the Detroit Dark Angels are on a pretty clear path towards punching their ticket to a national title. Keith Thomas isn't taking this Jacksonville opponent lightly. He likes to keep his foot on the gas pedal throughout the 4 quarters of a game. Clarissa Tulis keeping her foot on the gas pedal with a violent run forward that makes her way inside of the 5-yard line and down to what looks like the 3.
Tulis on the carry for the Dark Angels. Enough for a Dark Angels first down.
So brings up a 1st and goal situation on what has now certainly been the longest drive of this opening half by either team. Nearing 7 minutes long now. Mentioned the first touchdown of the game. Only took 1 play, and that's what it's felt like in the other 4 drives as well. Quick and snappy, but this time the Dark Angels team pounding their way forward and using up clock to the end zone. They cap it off with the second passing touchdown of the game for Michaela Hilton. She finds Jessica McKenzie, who is one of those mothers that Keith Thomas talked about. She has 2 sons who more often than not are at the games, and McKenzie has really stepped it up at a wide receiver this season in the absence of the injured Destiny Russell, who went down in game number 2 earlier this year. McKenzie has filled the void, and now she's responsible for a touchdown reception that has us at 41-0. Sarah Monte makes it 42-zip on cable 15. Michaela Hilton to the air, finds her rookie wideout, Jessica McKenzie, on cable 15.
Bengals Cares has provided over 300 free rooms for rescue dogs and cats. That's Bingo Pet Salon.
Sarah Monte back on to kick things off. Her team now with a comfortable 42-0 first half lead. Brittany Sheeran on the move, looking for a hole. Gets brought down by the ankles. Danielle Curse in on the tackle. A little over 2 minutes to play in this opening half before we head to the locker rooms. Again, Jacksonville entered today 5-2 on the season in unorthodox style, but numbers were low entering today due to injuries and players that had the availability to travel up from Florida for the latter stages of this week. And that certainly has put them at somewhat of a disadvantage entering today, but despite that, all the credit in the world goes to this Dark Angels team, and particularly what they've done up front, both offensively and defensively. The QB for the Dixie Blues, Amberlyn Twigg, has had what feels like maybe 3-4 seconds at best to get the ball out of her hands and find a target. You think of that in combination with the defensive backs for the Dark Angels, which don't give up a lot. You see the high press coverage. It is difficult to find any sort of soft spot in coverage against Detroit. And Amberlyn Twigg has had her hands full. Has her hands full once again here. Goes underneath and is nearly intercepted. Danielle Curse wanted that one back. It went in and out of her hands. Couldn't quite find what would have been the first interception of the game. Oh, yes, that was right in the breadbasket. Watching it live, it wasn't clear how easily she probably could have hauled on to that. Nonetheless, it'll be 2nd and 10 now for this Jacksonville offense. You can see Kirst still a bit frustrated with herself. I mentioned the mentality of Clarissa Toulis, who is kind of that student that isn't satisfied with the A-, always wants the A. Curse is the exact same way. Curse, just more than an interesting story. She is 85% deaf, has to wear a hearing device because she's hearing impaired. However, that hearing device broke earlier this season as Twigg drops back and just promptly lofts it up again into triple coverage this time. Almost intercepted once again. That'll bring up 3rd and long. But Curse is hearing impaired. So when that device broke, they had to devise a system to find a way to help her out. So more often than not, she has to look towards the sidelines for signals, and sometimes they say she just gets so caught up in the heat of battle that she forgets to do that. So it's kind of a mentality with Curse where they've had to tell her, let us help you, to try to solve that problem of having the hearing device broken. So despite that, she kind of navigates her way around the hurdles and still has not skipped a beat defensively when it comes to, in the words of her head coach, Keith Thomas, being one of, if not the best defensive backs that he has ever seen throughout the course of his years, having coached the Dark Angels since 2011, head coach since 2014. A little over 2 minutes to play now in this opening half of action. A 42-0 lead for the Detroit Dark Angels. Twigg steps into a throw. Bit of broken coverage downfield. However, recovering is Curse. This time she finds the interception, atoning for that mistake. 2nd turnover of the game. 1st interception of the game. And it's Danielle Curse with 1:56 to play in this opening half. Twigg confidently lofted that one downfield, had intentions for Erica Small. One of the matchups that we said we needed to keep an eye on in Danielle Curse and Erica Small, the 2 number 4s. Curse, the DB, wins that battle. Small had an initial burst that beat Curse, but the speed of Curse to make up ground, not only make up the ground, but catch up and reach to vacuum in that interception, was very impressive. 1:56 to play now in this opening half, and we'll see if Michaela Hilton and the Dark Angels offense that I mentioned have not let their foot off the gas pedal in this opening half of play can keep it up. This time they shovel it to Kurt. She's doing it offensively as well. Has a big block downfield and makes her way inside of the 25 for a gain of 26 on that opening play of a drive that is now just outside of the red zone with the clock ticking up 42-0. So they bring her in motion. Sarah Kirkhouse made the initial block, and then the Jets of Curse were turned on quickly. Curse and Erica Small matching up both ways. You don't say this a lot, but Erica Small, when she's on offense, checked by Danielle Curse, and then you line it up the other way. Danielle Curse, who also plays receiver, is being defended by Erica Small, who also plays defensive back. You see that a lot in the Women's Football Alliance with players offensively and defensively going both ways. Hilton not wasting time. This time it's Clarissa Toulis. Sheds a tackler, gets inside the 10. Will this be another Dark Angel touchdown? It is. The third rushing touchdown of the opening half for Clarissa Toulis. 25 yards to Pater. And with half a minute to go in the second quarter, it is a 48-0 advantage for the Dark Angels. Just absolutely running away with this game now. Monte still perfect in the extra point category, and they're just having a ton of fun now. Third rushing touchdown on the ground for Clarissa Toulis. Nice little stutter step to wrap it up and get past the pylon once again.
Once there was a boy who did the same thing again and again. One day, he was told he had autism. He got help and slowly learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
49 first half points for this offense. It's Michaela Hilton taking the kickoff duties now, actually. She'll line up on special teams just to expand her repertoire and her resume today. A couple of passing touchdowns for Hilton, a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. Over 100 rushing yards on the ground as a team for the Dark Angels in this first half.
Small is brought down by number 25 of the Dark Angels, Jessica Brown.
Erica Small was tackled by Jessica Brown on that kickoff return, and out comes a Jacksonville offense that only once has made it inside of the 50 and fumbled on that lone opportunity. That was the one time they crossed into Dark Angel territory. But it's been a tough day at the office for Amberlyn Twig. They're lining up to just wind down this opening half and kneel things out. That's what they'll do. We'll have a running clock in the second half at this rate, with the Dark Angels in such a commanding advantage. 49-0 after one half of play. 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. A sparkling opening first half, and don't expect the Dark Angels to take their foot off the gas pedal when the third quarter rolls around. We'll have all of it coming up next on Southfield Cable 15 once halftime wraps up.
I am blind, but I need not see. I know this road is there for me.
The kick to start the second half.
Second half of action getting underway on Southfield Cable 15. A 49-0 advantage for the Dark Angels. Sarah Monte will get the ball rolling. Erica Small receives it at her own 20. She'll make her way out to the 40-yard line. And that is where the Dixie Blues will pick up with what feels like an insurmountable hurdle to climb here. It will certainly need some magic and then some against a Dark Angel team that dominated time of possession in the opening half. 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. And right from the get-go, just 24 seconds in, came out of the gates hot. There was the 43-yard kickoff return from Clarissa Tulis, followed up by the 26-yard touchdown scamper from the QB, Michaela Hilton. And ever since then, it has been all Dark Angels. Thanks in large part to the defensive line that you see on your screen right now. This Dark Angel team, they have not given Amberlyn Twigg, the QB for the Dixie Blues, any time to work with. A couple of turnovers forced as well, a fumble and an interception, both of which came on fairly promising drives. You could say what were the most promising drives of the opening half for Jacksonville. They'll spread it out wide to Sheeran. She delivers down the sideline and finds Erica Small. There's some of that unorthodox style that the head coach of Detroit, Keith Thomas, felt he might see a bit more of throughout the course of that opening half. However, again, it was that defensive line that didn't give Amberlyn Twigg any time to work with. This time, again, not much time to work with, but a little trickery pays off.
It's good enough for a first down for Jacksonville.
Just the 3rd first down of the game so far for Jacksonville on the road today. Came up from Florida earlier this week. Harrison High School in Southeast Michigan is the home location for Detroit. So they are the home team in this conference championship, and it looks like it. Amberlyn Twigg and the Jacksonville offense trying to get into Dark Angel territory for just the 2nd time today. Twigg, another quick pass. This time it's patted down at the line of scrimmage. The height advantage up front certainly favors the Dark Angels, and it's been beneficial multiple times today, just getting into the face of Twigg. In addition to not giving her much time, they don't give her much room to see either. That's Octavia Griswold reaching up and smacking that ball down. Mentioned she has a couple of decades of women's pro football tackle experience, has played 20 years. Has only practiced a couple of times with the team so far this year because of her job duties off the field. She's a correctional officer if you weren't with us in the opening half. So naturally, that's a pretty time-consuming job. However, when you have played 20 years of football, the coach might say, we're okay with you starting and only practicing a couple of times throughout the course of the year. So it's worked out nonetheless. Early stages, 3rd quarter. 2nd and 10 for this Jacksonville offense. Twigg tries to do it herself and gets brought down promptly by Deion Jones, the partner in crime of Octavia Griswold. 78 and 74 up front. The partners in crime, and in the words of Keith Thomas, a blessing from God. Along with Marika C., who also is a key force on the edge. They like to bring their linebackers into the backfield as well.
2nd and 11. Third and 11.
The Columbus native Deion Jones forces 3rd and 11.
Jacksonville 49.
Mentioned Jacksonville trying to make it into Dark Angel territory for just the second time today. Easier said than done, even if you're at your own 49. More often than not, it's been 3 and out for this Jacksonville offense. They did establish just their 3rd first down of the game on this drive. Twig appeared to fake the handoff, kept it anyway, and she will not make it across the 50. This should be a punting situation, but down 49-0 near midfield. We'll see what Jacksonville opts to do here. Erica Small has punted 6 times today through just a couple of quarters. Looks like they're at least contemplating whether or not they'll keep the offense on the field.
4th down, 11 yards to go.
It's 4th and 11, and they're huddling as if they are drawing up some sort of play. The QB, Amberlyn Twig, is lined up as a receiver here. Again, they like to go with unorthodox scenarios. Brittany Sheeran is lined up at quarterback. Twig comes in motion, perhaps looking to pass. Won't have a lot of time to do so. Just have to loft it on downfield underneath. Had intentions for Erica Small, but the pass was nowhere near her, and that's a turnover on downs.
Dark Angels take over on downs.
Only once has the Dark Angel offense throughout the course of now 7 possessions started behind the 50-yard line in their own territory. This drive will start just inside of Jacksonville territory at the 49. Hilton will hand it off to Fiona Meyer-Terrell, and she picks up a good chunk of 8 yards there to bring up 2nd and 2.
Number 3, Fiona Meyer Turiel on the carry for the Dark Angels.
We've seen all sort of different formations today from the Dark Angels, but more often than not, they tend to result in the ground game, which they go back to here. Meyer-Terrell spiraled down by Cindy Anthony. Again, it's a running clock now in this 3rd quarter with the 49-0 advantage. You date back to the 1st quarter, speaking of time, just with all of the stoppages due to flags and the ground game mixed in with the passing game on the Dark Angels side of things, the struggles of the Jacksonville offense. That quarter was nearly an hour when you look at regular time, not with stoppages, but just a running clock of time. It was nearly an hour-long quarter. 2nd quarter a little different, and this 3rd quarter, if the Dark Angels keep it on the ground, as they do more often than not, could breeze by. Nonetheless, clock is going to keep rolling anyway. It's running now. First time today that they've handed the ball off to Jessica Brown, who is a linebacker more often than not, known more for her defensive abilities, out of Eastern Michigan University.
Pick up a 5 on the play.
Native of Ann Arbor.
Dark Angels, 2nd and 5 at the Jacksonville 32.
Brings up now 2nd and 5 for Michaela Hilton, who has 2 passing touchdowns today. She'll go to the air this time. Plenty of time. Lofting down the sideline, looking for Tulis. There to break it up was Brittany Sheeran, who has been a good defensive back all season long for this Jacksonville crew.
Third and 5 for the Dark Angels.
Jacksonville likes to go with a 4-3 look defensively. They'll typically drop back a couple of safeties as well. They rely on those talented defensive backs because you can see the bottom of your screen there. They like to give receivers a little bit of time and space to work with. This time, Detroit goes back to the ground. Fiona Meyer-Terrell will make her way just down outside of the red zone. But yeah, it's relatively soft coverage for this Jacksonville team, and because of that, their defensive backs can get put in some tough scenarios. But Sheeran and Erica Small both have made some good plays throughout the course of the season and earned the trust of the Jacksonville staff. However, the running game has been the prime enemy for the Jacksonville defense so far today. They have not been able to stop the multitude of backs that we've seen take snaps so far for Detroit. And the line of scrimmage battle up front has led the way in the number one reason for that. More time for Michaela Hilton. She'd like to have that throwback. It was at the feet of her intended target. That time, Mackenzie, she was looking for on the outside there. And Jessica McKenzie already has a touchdown reception today. The mother of 2 sons, who again has really stepped up at the receiver position when Destiny Russell, who was a starting receiver earlier this season for the Dark Angels, went down with an injury. The receivers in general, stepping into this offense this year, knew that they weren't going to be targeted a lot because it's a ground-heavy attack. So blocking becomes a key task as well for any receiver on this Dark Angel team. But they embrace that. And they know that every now and then, it's a group that, led by the head coach Keith Thomas, will try to throw off opposing defenses with some trickery in the passing game. And they have done well today to, when needed, throw the Jacksonville defense a little off guard with the passing game.
Pick up of 2 yards. Brings up 3rd and 8 at the Jacksonville 19.
For the 5th time today, Detroit enters the red zone. A rare 3rd and long situation, though. This is the longest yardage to go that we've seen all evening for Detroit on a 3rd down play. Mentioned earlier in the broadcast that Keith Thomas, the head coach of the Dark Angels, felt his team understood this stage. Here's what he had to say about the opportunity to get back to the championship.
Well, we're still focused. The message this year is finish. We got to finish it this year. I told you we went to the national championship in 2019. It was tremendous. It was exciting. And the way we got there was like nothing else. We had to win that conference championship against a nemesis. We had to play a team from Pittsburgh. A team from Pittsburgh had, well, they were 7-0 over 7 years on us. They had scored some 300 points to our 40 points. Everyone had us chalked up for a loss. We go into that conference championship into the 4th quarter down 21-7. It's done. It's over, right? They're just going to finish it out. We came back, won that game in overtime, 34-33. We still talk about it. We still actually shed tears over it because it was an amazing night. It was like nothing else. but we have unfinished business. We went to the championship game. It was hot. It was hot that day in Colorado. On the field, it was probably plus 100. It was our first time there, and we were playing against a two-time undefeated St. Louis team, and the lights were bright, albeit it was 12 noon. We just couldn't handle it, and we fell short. So this year, we're going to finish the job. We're going to get it done. We're going to get back to that championship. We're going to get the job done and bring a championship back home to Detroit. So the message for this year, finish. That's it.
Keith Thomas referring to the Pittsburgh Passion, the Women's Football Alliance team in Pittsburgh. They beat in the conference championship in 2019. Clarissa Toulis finds a block on the edge and gets pushed out of bounds at the 10-yard line. 2020 season was postponed due to COVID, and now 2021 hoping to return to the national championship game, which is in Canton, Ohio this year. It's just about a 3-hour drive in comparison to traveling all the way out to Colorado, which is what the Dark Angels had to do in 2019. Still to be determined as to who will Detroit match up with in a championship game that they appear to be bound to play in at this point. Up 49-0 as we near the fourth quarter of action. Just 70 seconds left in the third. With a running clock, that timeout marked our first stoppage of play in the second half due to what is now a running clock. Pleasure to have you with us on Southfield Cable 15 for this Women's Football Alliance Conference Championship from Harrison High School. Michaela Hilton looking for her third touchdown pass of the game. Ball was in and out of the hands. That time of the intended target. Had intentions for Aaron Payton. Couldn't quite find her. Brittany Sheeran on the coverage. May have gotten a piece of that ball in the latter stages. And Sheeran, when you speak to the Jacksonville coaching staff, number one thing they tell you about her is she does not give up on plays. And we have seen that today. If you could point out any bright spots, it's been maybe the defensive backs of the Jacksonville team. But they'll have a 49-0 deficit when the fourth quarter rolls around. It's coming up next on Southfield Cable 15. Our first quarter of action without any scoring. Again, it's a running clock now, and Detroit will be in prime position to maybe tack some more points on the board when we come back on Cable 15.
Whether it be sports, music, or art, we're all good at different things. But when it comes to texting and driving, no one's good at that.
Fourth and final quarter of action getting underway as this evening turns to night. Clarissa Toulis takes the opening handoff of the fourth from her QB, Michaela Hilton. Couldn't quite find the edge. Hit hard by Erica Small. This will bring up 3rd and 12, which will be the longest yardage to go on a third down play for the Dark Angels so far in this game. They have not yet faced a fourth down, and we're in the fourth quarter, which kind of epitomizes how this game has gone. Dark Angels have scored on all 6 of their offensive possessions so far today. 3rd and 12, a test for Hilton, goes to the end zone. Ball is in and out of the hands of the intended target, Marcy Van Hardesvelt. Has been on the team since 2015. Hoping to be a part of her first national championship in a couple of weeks. Couldn't quite hang on there, and it brings up what will be the first fourth down so far today for the Dark Angels. A running clock in this fourth quarter. We only had one stoppage in the third with a timeout. Same story in the fourth. Barring a timeout, we will not stop until the final whistle. Looks like Saramonte will come out to attempt the field goal. First field goal attempt all evening for this Dark Angel team. Perfect on extra points so far. Monte able to sneak that over the crossbar, and she remains spotless in the kicking game. The Dark Angels breach the century mark. 52-0 now on the home field.
For the Seahawks, articulation, chiropractic and rehab in Ferndale, bingo, pet salon.
The special teams game has been spotless today for the Dark Angels. Saramonte, a key part of that. A little squib that settles down at the 35 this time of the kickoff. Erica Small veering around traffic and brought down. Didn't gain much there, if anything.
Number 4, Erica Small, on the kickoff return for the Jacksonville Dixie Blues. Aaron Payton on the tackle.
Brings the Jacksonville offense out that on their previous possession picked up what was just their third first down of the game before turning it over on downs. Made it out to about the 50-yard line. Just inside of their own territory at the 49 is where that drive halted. And at the time, we were kind of somewhat joking, saying it was they set up 1st and 10 at the 49, and we said, easier said than done, but the chance to get across into Detroit territory for just the second time today may be a tall task, and it was, because they didn't make it past the 49 into Detroit territory. We've seen a few unorthodox styles of offense kind of pay dividends for Jacksonville towards the end of that third quarter. Twig will find a receiver in Sutton at the 40. A good first down pickup. Ball came loose towards the end of that run, which reached about the 42-yard line.
Twig to Sutton.
We'll see where they mark this. Not many second and short opportunities today for the Jacksonville offense, which has been another key part of how they've been limited offensively. 2nd and 3, which opens up the playbook. We haven't said that a lot today for Jacksonville. Twig, coverage downfield was steady, and that was in and out of the hands of Curse, who intercepted a Twig pass in the third quarter. Nearly came up with her second INT of the game. So that'll bring up 3rd and 3 now for this Jacksonville team. Danielle Curse, just such a fundamentally sound player, reads the passing game so well. Twig looking downfield again, just has to throw into double coverage. Ball may have been vacuumed in, but no yardage gained on the reception from Sutton. It is a complete pass, but no gain there. It'll bring up 4th and 3 now for the Jacksonville offense. Look who's there once again. It's Danielle Curse, who is matched up with multiple Jacksonville receivers today. Hurst has really developed throughout the course of her tenure as a Dark Angel. As 4th and 2 comes up, you hear so many stories like that as well when you think of this Detroit Dark Angel team. Alumni, current players. The alumni were very excited for today's conference championship. One in particular who stands out in kind of the Detroit media right now, having just departed the Detroit media, and a congratulations on her tenure as a Lions team reporter, Tori Petrie, who decided to play Dark Angel football to learn more about the game, which translated over to her job as the Detroit Lions team reporter, which she did a wonderful job with, in addition to working for Fox Sports Detroit, now Bally Detroit. And you just hear stories like that. I feel like it kind of resembles the mindset of these players in general for the Dark Angels, who are typically players who always want to continue learning and building and continuing to hone their craft. And the head coach, Keith Thomas, resembles that as well, as a stick at the bottom of your screen there. This time making the hit was Jessica Brown from her linebacker position. An open field tackle on Brittany Sheeran will end a second consecutive Jacksonville drive on downs. But getting back to that mentality, each and every player you speak to is always trying to learn. And you see that translate over to professional fields as well. As I mentioned with Tori Petrie, we did such an awesome job as the Detroit Lions team reporter. But stories like that all around this roster, and the head coach, Keith Thomas, had so much to say about his team in our conversations earlier this week. Thomas was a secondary coach at Troy High School for 8 years. Head coach of the Dark Angels since 2014, has been with the team overall since 2011 as a gaping hole opens up. This time for Fiona Meyer-Terrell. We've said that throughout the course of the evening. A lot of holes opening up, and the running game is the beneficiary once again. Under 6 to play now in this last quarter.
Pickup of 24 yards.
It's a gain of 24 on the opening play there for the Dark Angels. Right there, you see how much the receivers embrace blocking. That's a key part of this running game, in addition to the woman up front. So for the 7th time today, the Dark Angels are inside of the red zone. Last opportunity resulted in 3 points. They've scored on every possession so far today. Meyer-Terrell sheds another tackle and muscles her way inside the 5. It'll set up 1st and goal from the 3. I mentioned Keith Thomas probably wouldn't take his foot off the gas pedal, and he has not, opting to keep the starters on the field.
Takes it down inside the 10, inside the 5-yard line, down to the Jacksonville 3. Another Dark Angels first down.
Hilton Meyer-Terrell into the end zone once again. 7th touchdown of the day for the Dark Angels. And they take a 58-0 advantage. The goal is to finish, in the words of Keith Thomas, and they aren't taking the foot off the gas pedal until we hear that finishing whistle today. Brings out Sarah Monte, who is perfect in extra points so far today. Remains spotless. 59-0.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
So look, as we wrap up this season and our goal is to win a national championship, we will be having a 2022 season, absolutely. And for that season to be successful, I need players, I need talent, I need coachable players, I need people who are going to give you maximum effort, who are going to be a great teammate, and most importantly, want to be a champion. And I say that message to everybody I recruit. I say that message to people, am I talking football or am I talking your life, right? You should be always wanting to be a champion in your life. You should always give maximum effort. And why shouldn't you be a good person and a good teammate to your friends and family? Those are the players I'm looking for. I'm also looking for people who want to help our team out, want to volunteer, want to help us on game day. I need additional coaches, and I need sponsors. You know, these young ladies, well, not all are young. Some are in their 40s, pushing 50. They need support. We need people to be able to help us financially at times, with other things, with media. We're a semi-pro team. And one of the hardest things is I don't get an opportunity to pay these people. I have to ask for team fees from them. And I would rather them have an opportunity to be able to play the game they love without having to have to compromise anything outside of football, meaning their life obligations, paying their bills, taking care of their families. So I respectfully ask if there's anyone out there, any organization who would like to help us out, sponsor us. We are a nonprofit. So you know some of the things tied in with sponsoring nonprofits. I respectfully ask, help us out for 22, and then we can go about winning our second national championship next year. But we appreciate all the support we get, all the respect these women get as tackle football players. Thank you.
Head coach Keith Thomas mentioned the word coachable there. His players overall, it's another mentality that they really embody. Fiona Meyer-Terrell, who scored that last touchdown as we're into the final minute now, is described as fourth quarter fee because her energy it typically picks up in the fourth quarter when everyone else is starting to get tired. She's just a rookie, and she isn't looking towards that 2022 season yet because prior to that, the Dark Angels are going to have a crack at a national championship down in Canton, Ohio. The home fans stand up. The kind of moment that gives you chills. Love to see the journey of a team lined up at a destination that they aspire to get to, and that is where the season will potentially end for the Dark Angels. We don't know yet if it'll be a win or a loss, but they are on to Canton, Ohio to play for a national title. 59-0 your final in favor of Detroit. The conference championship is in the hands of the Dark Angels, and head coach Keith Thomas will certainly be proud of his crew. Pleasure to bring you this one on Cable 15.